This segment's being sponsored by the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency. Join us in preserving and protecting Tennessee's wildlife. All right, everybody, this next segment's being sponsored by Taylor's Archery. You all can find them at 100 East Lauderdale Street in Tullahoma, Tennessee, or give owner Tracy Taylor a call at 931-563-7706. Let them take care of all your archery needs. He can get you ready to shoot all this summer during your tournament season and be ready to go in the woods at the end of the fall. So be sure to tell them thank you for what they do for us here. Guys, welcome back to the studio. You can give us a call here if you'd like now, 615-737-7767 if you have any questions or comments you'd like to add tonight. And while we're waiting on some of those calls, we're just going to keep on picking your brain, man. You know,
it's not a big brain. Let's just make that clear.
But there's a turkey in there somewhere. I mean, we've heard it. It's just trying to come out, you know. Well, tell me this. You know, you've hunted a lot of different places. You were telling me earlier you're just one bird away from a grand slam. I'm still 2 birds away, so you're one ahead of me. But what's your favorite area that you have hunted besides Tennessee? Man,
I'm not gonna lie to you. Georgia's probably one of my favorite places to hunt. I mean, the birds there, they work different. I mean, it's such a, they gobble a little bit harder. They work a little bit different. I mean, those birds there, it's just different. I'm not gonna say it's an easier Eastern to hunt. Yeah. But I mean, they just.
Maybe a little bit easier, huh?
Yeah.
You know, they don't want to say it, but you know, it's a little easier.
They work different.
Yeah, they do.
I love Tennessee because I think I started hunting Tennessee about 5 years ago, and I'm not used to field birds. And I came to Tennessee, that's all that it was here in Tennessee was field birds. Yep. And you'll get spoiled on that real quick. Yeah. I mean, it's just, you could go by a field and see 20 birds in it. You know, and just,
the key then is figuring out how to get to them.
Oh,
you know, what are you going to do? Which usually for me ends up trying to get where they're going.
Oh, yeah.
You know, before they get there. It's one of the best ways in the field. But do you think I've not shot an Osceola, so I know you obviously have. I've always been told that's probably the toughest bird. Would you agree with that?
No.
No, really?
No, I wouldn't.
I've had numerous people tell me that I thought that was the toughest bird to call.
It depends. I mean, they don't gobble as much. Yeah. But when you do get one to gobble and you can work one in. Yeah. I mean, it's just.
Game on then, huh?
I don't want to sound arrogant when I say this, but it's just a bird after that. Yeah. You know, you could trick him. You know, just as simple as you could trick a chicken, you know? Yeah. I mean, what we do, so down in Florida, I go to Florida every year, and, you know, what we'll do is, I got a buddy of mine, Harold, and we normally kill birds first day. I mean, we find the birds, it's a lot of open country out there. You get them fired up, you pop a fan in front of them, they come running in, and it's game over after that. Yeah. Is it
pretty thick hunting down there?
Mm-hmm. Depends on where you're at. Gotcha. Depends on where you're at.
Yeah, I've never hunted that far. Now, I've hunted Texas and down in there, and I got a Rio down there, but that's obviously totally different habitat there too. And one thing about the Rios is, in my opinion, I think they gobble more than any turkey I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I mean, them jokers, you can be down there deer hunting in December, and those birds will gobble from daylight till 9 o'clock in the morning. I mean, nonstop.
See, the thing about a Rio will gobble at anything. Yeah. Anything.
Evidently, because I mean, they sure do.
I mean, you can slam the truck door, you can yell, you can scream, you can shoot a gun. A Rio will gobble at anything. Yeah. That's probably the funnest turkey to hunt. I mean, it's almost too easy. Yeah. You know.
They're a pretty bird too. I always like the way they look.
But I mean, a Merriam's the same way. Yeah. A Merriam, they just gobble. It's kind of it's not really a gobble. It's kind of like more of a yodel. Yeah. Like, it just kind of throws you off the first time you hear it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've always assumed, this is a total assumption, but there's a lot more open ground there, and I just figure they have to communicate more. They have to use louder sounds there than they do here. You know, here a lot of times. The best calls around here are the ones you can barely hear. You know, you have a hen at 10 yards, and she's over there doing all that fancy stuff he was doing, you know, purring, and she's putting. But if you weren't 10 yards away from her, you wouldn't hear it. Yeah. Right. But a gobbler 200 yards away hears it. Yeah. I mean, it's pretty amazing the difference in their hearing to ours. But so I've just always assumed you get in that big open ground, and those birds are, you know, they got a lot more space to cover, and I assume that's why they're louder. That's just always been my assumption. I don't know what else would cause that, but they do seem to be much more vocal when you get out there in the open areas like that.
But I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's still fun. I mean, no matter if it's Osceola, Eastern, Rio, Mary, it's still fun. They're all fun to shoot.
They're all
fun.
What about you, Wes? Have you mostly shot Easterns? Have you
Osceolas? I kind of cut my teeth almost on Osceolas.
Really?
Yeah. Back when I first started hunting, there wasn't as many birds here, but I had some good places in Florida.
Yeah.
And so I traveled there and hunted Osceolas, as Tennessee built their population up in more areas. So I got to hunt Osceolas quite a bit. Enjoyed that. The different terrain.
I'm going to have to go check that one out sometime. That's something I haven't been able to do it yet.
It's worth it.
So I'm going to have to go make that happen.
And you combine a wild hog with Osceola hunt sometimes.
Or do like Andy Coker and go down there and shoot your big alligator. That's what he did.
And see, the thing about Florida, it's such a target-rich environment. Like, you can be Osceola hunting. You can walk up on a gator. You can walk up on a bear. You can walk up on a panther. I mean, you never know what you're going to walk up on.
People don't understand, because when they think of Florida, they just think of the beaches down there, Destin or something. But, man, there's a lot of wild country and pretty territory in Florida.
Well, yeah, we hunted. So I killed one of my birds in a swamp. I mean, it was sketchy. It was very sketchy. We never knew what we were going to run into. I mean, there was, we had sightings of bear and stuff like that in the area. I mean, it was one of those situations where you never know what you're going to walk up on.
Yeah, right.
But it was fun. It was worth it.
Just don't eat the wild oranges. They're tart, man. I did that one day. Yeah, they'll turn your mouth inside out. So
yeah, I don't think I'll be trying one of those. You would think they'd be fantastic too. We were in New Orleans down there at Cotton Bob's. We were pulling oranges and lemons and things in there, and they're delicious. So I'll have to keep that in mind. Leave those Florida wild oranges alone down there, and you don't want to get too mixed in with those. Well, what are you thinking for this weekend, guys? I mean, you got thunderstorms again Saturday morning. Now, I mentioned, one of my favorite things when that storm leaves, deer hunting the same way, but with turkeys, it just seems like it gets magical after the rain.
Man, so the game plan for this week, we got a boat. My buddy bought a boat, and we were going to hit one of the lakes and just kind of find birds on the lake. I'm not trying to be in a boat in a thunderstorm.
No, you might be better off to go to Waffle House for a little while or something, man, and then cut loose and get to the boat after that. But, I do think it could change a little between now and then, but it looks like by 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, that's going to push off, And I've seen birds, and I'm sure y'all have too, I've seen birds stay on roost that long.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, several times where a big storm will come in, it leaves at 7:30, all of a sudden you start hearing them flying down. And it's like they start their day at that point in time, once the storm's already gone through. So I think that's part of it.
On those rainy days, as long as it's not thunderstorming too bad, I mean, there may not be as vocal, but they call the same. I've actually had really good luck on rainy days, and it didn't run me to the truck at all, for sure.
Well, they're not like a deer. Again, that turkey don't have the choice to just lay up and wait till tomorrow or overnight tonight or whatever need. I mean, when it's daylight, you always hear you got to make hay when the sun shines. Turkey's got to do that every day. I mean, when he's got a chance in daylight to get out of that tree, he's got to feed. That all your breeding, all that happens. I mean, that's all in the daylight. I mean, that's one difference about them is they don't have that choice at night. They don't hit that roosting limb, and they're going to end up being dinner or something. I mean, you're not going to catch one on the ground, in the dark. So it gives you that at least the know. They're out there feeding or doing something. And most of the time, especially a hen turkey, her entire life revolves around two things, and that's nesting and eating. That's it. That's all she's worried about from the time she flies down to the time she goes back up is nesting and eating. So a lot of times, as you get later into the season, getting in those nesting areas can be a very productive way to hunt them, because those gobblers get back down in there and get to looking for hens again.
I'm not gonna lie, I think my favorite time is late season hunt turkeys. I mean, the hens are away, the birds, they're looking.
Sometimes late season, I agree. Sometimes late season can really get one fired out. Who do we have on the one? We got a caller here. Brad, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good.
We appreciate you calling. How can we help you tonight?
I was just got a question in for Dr. Carney.
Sure, go ahead.
Well, which he's an idol of mine. I've been watching him for about 5 years. He's been great in the outdoor industry, and I was just trying to ask, on public hunting and pressured areas, what would be your go-to calling sequence?
my go-to calling sequence for public land and pressured areas is getting somebody's backyard. I mean, the birds are going to be in somebody's yard. That's the best way to find birds. And I think from this morning experience, I think you know about that. So by the way, that's a buddy of mine, Brad.
And my next question is, do we still have that $80 bet on Monday?
Yes, we do have that $80 bet, and I will take your money gratefully on Monday morning.
We appreciate you calling. Thank you.
All right, y'all have a good day.
You too. Have a good one. All right, guys, we're going to get ready to go on over and do this week's tip of the week. This week's tip of the week is being sponsored by Phoenix Custom Quality Rods. You guys can find them at phoenixrods.com and find all their new 2021 lineup. Or here in the state of Tennessee, call Mr. Jim Brewer at 931-213-1455. All right, the tip I wanted to share this week actually had a lot to do with the bird that Jack was able to shoot today. A lot of times after we have bad weather for a day or two or whatever, we'll have a windy day, okay? A windy day when you've got a fairly high wind, like today, I don't know exactly what it was, but I mean, it was a pretty high wind. That is a great day to leave the calls at home if you want to and go out and kind of spot and stalk for, say, for turkeys. Yeah. If you can catch a gobbler in full strut in the high wind and figure out where he's at, you've got a great opportunity of being able to slip around and get on him. And that's exactly what worked for Jack today. It was windy. The birds couldn't hear him. He was able to slip around. And he actually got out in front of them 200 yards or so, knowing where they were heading. And they came right to him, and it worked out. But that's our tip this week is on those windy days, you feel frustrated because you can't hear them and they can't hear you and you're trying to call loud as you can and all that. Just leave those calls alone and go easing around, even if it's on a smaller piece of property, because he's probably just standing still, strutting somewhere, being quiet, standing in one little area. If you can figure out where he is, that's a very killable bird. Yep. Well, guys, we're going to get ready to take another quick break. We'll be back here in just a minute with some more Southern Woods and Waters.